Hey everybody, it's the Burger Dude, and today I want to show you how I make crab cake sliders, but vegan of course. And we're going to be using jackfruit as the base along with a bunch of seasoning since jackfruit tastes pretty bland on its own. I got this idea from Trader Joe's as they have some vegan jackfruit crabless cakes which are pretty good, but I was curious, can we make them better? And the short answer is yes. So here is the jackfruit crabless cakes in question, and like I said, they're good, they're serviceable, you know, they're $4, so it's like $1 per crab cake, so relatively affordable. It's good on a weeknight if you just don't feel like whipping something up, but if you do feel like putting a little bit more effort into it, you will be rewarded. So let's get our vegan tartar sauce together, and this is going to be a little bit non-traditional. We are starting off with some vegan mayo and some dill weed, as well as some dill relish. And now this is where things get a little different. We're going to be using some jalapeno brine, and this is going to just add a little bit of a different flavor along with this lime. Instead of lemon, we're going to be using some of this lime juice along with some garlic salt to taste, and that's it. Mix that up, and as always, season it to taste, but this stuff was pretty dynamite right out of the gate. Give it a thumbs up on the first try, which is a rarity. So this is the jackfruit. Make sure that you get this young green jackfruit in brine. You don't want it in the syrup. And this stuff is from Trader Joe's. I'm going to show you the other things you can get at Trader Joe's. Now these are capers that are from Whole Foods, but Trader Joe's does have their own capers. I already had these, so I just didn't want to buy the same thing at Trader Joe's and double up. There's also this furikake Japanese multi-purpose seasoning. This is great for adding some fishy flavor. It's got some nori in there and some sesame seeds, that sort of thing. And then we're also going to do these crackers instead of breadcrumbs. You could also use Ritz crackers. It just kind of gives it a little bit more of a buttery sort of flavor. It's just, you know, a little bit better than breadcrumbs, but go ahead and use breadcrumbs or panko, whatever you got on hand. And now some of the next few ingredients are optional, but this is not one of them. The Old Bay is mandatory, so make sure you get some of this if you don't have some already. This is one of the optional ones, but I do highly recommend it. I found it at Whole Foods. You can get it online. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to find some for yourself, as well as this seaweed salt. This stuff is really, really good, really salty. You only need a little bit, goes a long way. You know, a little dabble do ya, as they say. So next what we want to do is get our breadcrumbs together. So we got to smash up some of those crackers. And again, you could totally use regular breadcrumbs or panko, whatever you like. But I did dig using these Ritz style crackers for my crab cake slurry, which is what we're going to put together now. So we're going to start off with some vegan mayo, as well as some freshly squeezed lime juice. You could also use lemon juice. In fact, I do add a bit of lemon juice later because this is the first time that I've thrown this together. So I was being a little conservative with certain things like lemon and salt and whatnot. Because, you know, when you're putting something together for the first time and you're not really totally sure what you're going to end up with, it's a lot easier to add more salt or whatever else you want to add later. It's actually quite impossible to take it out. Once it's mixed in there, it's mixed in there, and then you got to either start all over again, you know, or just eat something that has way too much salt in it, which I don't think anybody likes to do. In fact, that's why I was taking it easy on that seaweed salt right there. Originally, I was going to do half a teaspoon, and I thought, that seems like a little too much salt. So I just threw in a quarter teaspoon, and I was right. And here, I was a little too conservative with the Old Bay because I ended up using more later on. And then we're going to throw in some of that furikake seasoning, as well as our crushed up crackers. And we're going to give this a mix right after we add in some chopped parsley, as well as some chopped dill weed. And you could use dry if you want, just use less because it's going to be a little bit more potent. We're also going to use some plant milk because usually in these crab cake slurries they use an egg, but we don't use chicken eggs around here, so we're going to use some unsweetened plant milk instead. And I gave that a taste and I decided it wasn't quite zippy enough, so I added in some more lemon juice. Gave that a mix and it tasted good. So now what we want to do is get our jackfruit. So drain it, wash it, dry it off with a paper towel. And some people like to take out the seeds and the kind of chunkier parts. I don't. I like to use the whole jackfruit. And I just like to chop it up because a lot of times, you know, crab cakes, one of the things about them is the consistency is a little bit inconsistent. Sometimes there's big chunks, sometimes there's little chunks. So I like to give it a nice rough chop like that. Add it into our slurry and then give that a mix. And once you mix it, you're going to want to, you know, taste it for seasoning. Again, you really want to, you know, taste for seasoning as you go through each one of these processes. And then I decided, yeah, it's not bad. You know what it needs? It needs more lemon juice. So I threw in some more lemon juice and some more Old Bay. Really, those are going to be your 2 stars, the Old Bay and your lemon juice. That's really what's going to make these crab cakes come to life. And there we go, thumbs up. And then I decided, you know what? It's missing some cayenne. So there we go with the cayenne. And then I gave it the real thumbs up after I gave it another taste. There you go. Double thumbs up. So now what we need to do is form our patties, and I was using an ice cream scooper at first, but eventually I just kind of moved on to just using my eyeballs, you know, because they're pretty good, my eyeballs and my hands. I know what I'm doing with them for the most part, usually. And it also helps to have the bun, if you're making a slider, just to kind of have for reference, and look at that. Pretty dang perfect. And I turned out 7 of these crab cakes, lucky number 7, which makes sense because cancers are crabs and they're born in July, which is the 7th month of the year. You're gonna wanna freeze them for 20 minutes to get them firmed up. And now we need to make our breading station. And I'm just using some more of these crushed up crackers. You could, if you want to make like a full-on dredging station with like, you know, buttermilk, vegan buttermilk, of course, and flour. Personally, I found that the breadcrumbs made out of these crackers was totally sufficient. And again, use a food processor. Don't be a ding-dong like me and just sit here smashing up crackers by hand. What a waste of time. Anyways, once those are firmed up, you're gonna wanna dip them in those breadcrumbs and make sure you get it as covered as possible. I mean, they're gonna be good. You don't even really need to, you know, dip them in breadcrumbs if you don't want to. You could fry them up just like that, but the breadcrumbs really, really help. They give it a nice crispy sort of exterior. And once you got them all covered up like that, all we want to do now is get a pot or a skillet. I ended up using a skillet of oil. And don't use olive oil. Use something like peanut, vegetable, canola, that sort of an oil, a neutral oil with a high smoke point. And get your oil up to at least 350 degrees. I like between 350 and 375 Fahrenheit. And if I could go back in time, I would have employed a little bit more patience because I feel like I threw these in before my oil got up to a good heat. And they took a little bit longer to brown up than I would have liked. But you know what? They turned out just fine anyway. So, you know, no big deal there. And I do recommend using a non-stick skillet because you really don't want these crab cakes to stick. And you also want to use some silicone spatulas to help you flip them like that. I do recommend doing the 2 silicone spatula sort of flip that I'm doing here because you don't want to flip it and then have that crab cake splash down and hit that hot oil and just, you're going to get hot oil all over you and you're going to burn yourself. Unless you like to burn yourself, then by all means. You might also burn your house down. So if you like doing that, you know, hey, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but personally, I don't like burning down my house or burning myself, so I try to take as many precautions as possible when I'm working with hot oil. So once they look nice and golden brown on both sides, you're going to take them and let them rest on a wire rack. And now it's time to do the taste test. So we got the Burger Dude one on the left, Trader Joe's on the right. Let's try that one first. And you know, there just wasn't a lot of variation with the interior, the exterior. There wasn't, you know, there wasn't a lot of contrast and the flavor just wasn't really hitting me. Whereas mine, there was a lot more contrast in the breading, the interior. There was, you know, different sized chunks, the lemon, the Old Bay. It was just, you know, it was a taste explosion. I don't know how else to describe it. And it was just way, way, way better than the Trader Joe's one by like miles. Totally worth the extra effort. I'm sorry, Trader Joe's, I love you, but you know, I gotta dunk on you every now and then just for fun. So now we're gonna make our little crab cake slider. Put a little piece of butter lettuce right there just for some greenery. We're gonna give it a good slathering of that jalapeno tartar sauce that we made. And of course, if you want, give it an aesthetic drippy drip. Never hurt nobody. Then we're gonna give it a little sprinkling of some dill weed as well as our top bun. And now it's time to dig in. And these things, I mean, the crab cake was already good, and then you put that tartar sauce on top of it with a little vegan brioche bun, and it's like just freaking phenomenal. So ridiculously scrumptious. We had these later, you know, there was leftovers, so we air fried them, and that was a super good move. You could probably even air fry these from the get-go if you like. I'll leave some instructions on how to air fry these in the recipe on my blog. There you go, recipe link in description. If you do make this, let me know how it went. It's super duper fantastic. If you've never had these, really give it a go. And if you've had the Trader Joe's ones, then you definitely need to give it a go because you're gonna love these even more. Hope you're all doing great, and I'll see ya next week.